All right, let's roll out to the Bay Area, where we'll be joined by our NBA analyst and expert, Ric Bucher. Rick, the NBA has created this G League pathway program where it's really enticing a lot of these top high school stars. Daishen Nix, the third big-time five-star high school basketball player, choosing the pathway program over 1 year in college basketball. The pathway program is not quite joining the G League. These guys are gonna play in LA, perhaps at the Mamba Academy. They'll play some G League teams. They'll travel overseas and play some top competition. A lot of people see this as progress. I see this as bad for the NBA. Anything that further damages college basketball, to me, is not good for the NBA. Marcellus, we'll start with you. Agree with me that the top players not playing college basketball actually not good for the NBA.
No, I don't agree with you. I think this is great for the NBA, and it's going to obviously have consequences at the collegiate level. But this intended shot was really at the NBL of Australia that was starting to poach that same collegiate talent, and they were foregoing their college experience to go to Australia for a year, didn't make it to the NBA. The NBA realized that, hey, the only way we could fix this is to really up the ante in terms of compensation, north of $500,000 for the top players, and also not just get better prospects, but better people. Let's get them around some coaching. Let's get them off the court and life skills academies and really groom them for their experience in the NBA. The collegiate experience in terms of college basketball was already being suppressed, was already being sabotaged by its own doing. We're not getting four-year starters that are top collegiate athletes and prospects anymore. Those are the one-and-dones. And in the one-and-done, you're not getting life skills. You're going to a meaningless class, studying astrology that won't help you going forward. You're not learning anything off the court. And then on the court, a lot of evaluators say you have to open up a prospect from their collegiate ball game because of how the collegiate game is played. Pass, pass, perimeter, perimeter, pass, 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 run down the shot clock, finally shoot. And then you get to the NBA, you have to really open up that package and really let that play itself out. So I just think that the unintended consequence is that the collegiate game continues to suffer. And they weren't the initial target, but they have to suffer. But the NBA is going to prosper for it.
It's good, potentially great for the NBA. It's obviously bad for the NCAA. But collegiate sports and collegiate basketball did this to itself by being like newspapers, refusing to adapt or die. The idea that they're now open to the idea of guys being able to utilize their images for their own benefit is a little too late. And so I don't look at the NBA as having to solve the NCAA's problems. The issue was that they had the best players were not going to college if they weren't going to the G League, or they were all going overseas. RJ Hampton, LaMelo Ball, James Wiseman did go and played 3 games, got a 12-game suspension, and said it's not worth waiting that out to play. Anthony Edwards, NBA fans couldn't pick him out of a lineup as of right now. Wiseman, LaMelo Ball, and Edwards are the top 3 picks in this NBA draft. So ideally, I'd love to see the NCAA as a platform of exposure for players coming to the NBA. But the reality is that model is dead and gone. Kids are deciding now, I don't need that. So the NBA now has the opportunity to create exposure for people to get to know the kids coming up, to get to know Green, where they wouldn't have if they were going to the NBL. Nobody's seen LaMelo Ball play over there. Nobody saw RJ Hampton play over there. I love the idea of college basketball being the platform that takes kids to the NBA and utilizing that to build their brand and their exposure. But Zion Williamson was a brand and was a YouTube highlight before he got to Duke. Did Duke help? Yes, but it didn't make Zion. And certainly nobody was watching Anthony Edwards at Georgia. So I believe that this is simply realizing the situation and adjusting to modern times and saying, look, if the talent's going to play, Let's have the talent play for us.
We're all in agreement that the NCAA and college basketball is dying of self-inflicted wounds, bad leadership, a lack of vision. Totally agree with that. Here's where we disagree. The NBA should be trying to help the NCAA fix itself because there's great benefit. I'm just sorry. Zion Williamson was a nice little YouTube story. He was the second or third best prospect coming out of high school. Duke made him a superstar and a guy that could drive television ratings. The branding and the exposure and the hype that comes from participating in college basketball, which has 100 years worth of history, has a fan base, a passionate, loyal fan base. This pathway program, if the NCAA were smart and if the NBA were smart, they should be partnering together and giving up their top collegiate players for the summer to work with the NBA and the G League and the Summer League or whatever, pay the kids, the top players for participating in that during the summer, and then send the kids back to college basketball and let them continue to build their brand in a system that's already built. The G League is never going to create a Dick Vitale, who's a great person to help college basketball players build their brand. Again, not as Jay Billis, these other people, and these television networks that have a system built around college basketball. We're going to blow all that up, and none of these kids will ever come to the NBA with the kind of hype that Zion Williamson had, certainly with the kind of hype that Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Michael Jordan brought. When you start looking at why LeBron James has never been able to catch Michael Jordan as a brand or as a shoe endorser, he didn't have the college basketball experience. He didn't come in with the kind of brand and package that other superstar college players have brought to the NBA. The NBA benefits from college basketball. They should put these guys in a headlock and help them fix college basketball. Don't let just college basketball die on a vine of its own stupidity. It's why the NFL draft just had 16 million people watch it. It's why we all know who Jordan Love is. It's why we know who any of these guys. It's why Joe Burrow, any of them, because of college football. Marcellus, I see you shaking your head. How do you disagree with that?
I think your argument is eating itself. Your comparisons are not analogous. One, in football, you have to be 20 years old, 3 years removed from high school. Because of that mandate, then you allow the hype machine to take course. But in college basketball, that's not the case. First, the NBA negotiated with the NBAPA and couldn't come to a conclusion on how to deal with the one-and-done rule. So basically in college, you're dealing with a one-year sensation. He's going to leave. And the NBA was trying to figure out, hey, do we even have to force these guys to go? Because the 2-year rule didn't work. So a lot of infighting between the three entities, they never came to a resolution. Then if you talked about the marketing of the hype coming out of college, these guys' hype is being suppressed more so than ever. Think about it. Who goes into the tournament and actually wins it of late? The Villanovas, the Virginias, the teams that have 3-4-year starters on them. Guess what? Those are not the best prospects. People are skipping that line like a LaMelo Ball will because they're like, why go through this process and try to do team building for a hype exercise that is going to prove futile? You can still get hype and not even go to the college, let alone you're saying that Zion Williamson was made at Duke or really benefited. I'm here to say in a parallel universe, it would have been the same impact if he didn't go to Duke. But we'll never know if that's the reality. But because these guys are coming in with suppressed marketing compared to, like you said, Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, this is a different game, different era. And because of social media, we know of guys who can skip
with
this
lower
process
television
rather
ratings,
than those who were forced to invest it.
NBA is not as popular as when the guys played college basketball. But go ahead, Rick. I'm sorry.
There's different reasons for that.
I love your idea, Jason. And if the NCAA could put its arms around what developing players and giving them some money I'd be all for it. But the NCAA has demonstrated that they're not willing to do that. So from the NBA's perspective, it's, all right, so how do we prevent our talent from going places that people are not going to see it play and that ultimately we don't have control over? It is better for the quality of basketball for these guys to be put in a professional setting right away. They're going to get better playing against G League competition, against professional competition, against guys who can match their athleticism than they will playing at the collegiate level. And so I like that. And I have to believe, and I understand the exposure element, but in this day and age, the ability to put out in the way that we do digitally, the exposure of athletes, there's a way for the NBA to get around this and allow people to see the young talent that's going to the development program in the G League and allow people to get to know it and to follow it. Because the reality is the vast majority of people are watching on their devices at this point anyway. So I worry about the socialization.
Rick.
I think that's an important part of going to college, and we're going to miss out on that. And I hope that the NBA pays attention to that. I don't know if you can get it done. Major League Baseball players for me are the worst because they go straight from high school to the minor leagues. They're only surrounded by other baseball players in baseball. They don't mature. They don't develop. And then you got to go talk to them and deal with them, or they got to go out there in the public, and they're doofuses. I don't want to lose that. The NBA players
Rick, one of the
biggest
myths we have in America.
Football players because of that.
Biggest myth we have in America is that the internet and social media and digital is going to save the world and we're all going to make money and it's going to fix everything and everything's going to be better. And it's all BS. It's all bull crap. And that's why people sit around and think the NBA is somehow a competitor to the NFL. And it's not. We just watched 16 million people watch a damn draft. It blows everything away. The NBA is not as popular as it used to be. The further and further they get away from having college basketball stars come into their sport. If the media pressured college football into having a playoff, if we put some real pressure on the NCAA, anybody could expose them how stupid they are and how much money they're going to cost themselves by not coming to some type of partnership with the NBA. Let these guys go make $500,000 playing for the NBA during the offseason and still let them come play college basketball. Keep the best of both worlds so that true superstars join the NBA, help grow the league. The facts are the facts. The league hasn't been as popular since Michael Jordan left, and we can hype LeBron James, and everybody can be a groupie for LeBron James, but he doesn't compare to the stars of yesteryears in terms of moving the needles, in terms of moving shoes, in terms of being a brand, and it's because these guys are removed from the college basketball experience.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. And be sure to check out more of the best clips from Speak For Yourself or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.